From the frontier to the White House. The people's president was the first self-made man to occupy the White House. Jackson was born in 1767 on the South Carolina frontier. His father died before he was born, leaving Jackson, his mother, and two brothers in poverty. Young Andrew loved sports more than schoolwork. He also had a hot temper. He would pick a fight at the drop of a hat. A friend recalled, and he'd drop the hat himself. The American Revolution ended Jackson's childhood. When he was just 13, Jackson joined the local militia and was captured by the British. One day, a British soldier ordered Jackson to polish his boots. "Sir," he replied boldly, "I am a prisoner of war and demand to be treated as such." The outraged officer lashed out with his sword, slicing the boy's head and hand. Jackson carried the scars to his grave. The frontier lawyer. After the war, Jackson decided to become a lawyer. He went to work in a law office in Salisbury, North Carolina. He quickly became known as the most roaring, rollicking, game-cocking, horse-racing, card-playing, mischievous fellow in town. The wonder is that he learned any law at all. In 1788, Jackson headed west to Nashville, Tennessee, to practice law. At that time, Nashville was a tiny clump of rough cabins and tents beside the Cumberland River. But the town grew quickly, and Jackson's practice grew with it. He soon earned enough money to buy land and slaves and set himself up as a gentleman planter. Despite his success, Jackson never outgrew his hot temper. A slave trader named Charles Dickinson found this out when he called Jackson a worthless scoundrel and insulted his wife Rachel. Enraged, Jackson challenged Dickinson to a duel or fight with pistols, even though the slave trader was said to be the best shot in Tennessee. At that time, duels were accepted as a way of settling disputes between gentlemen. Dickinson shot first, hitting Jackson in the chest. Jackson stiffened, raised his pistol, and fired a single shot. Dickinson fell dead to the ground. "My God," a friend explained on spotting Jackson's wound, "he missed your heart only by an inch." In fact, Dickinson's bullet was lodged so close to Jackson's heart that doctors were not able to remove it. "I would have hit him," replied Jackson, "even if he'd shot me through the brain." The people's choice. Jackson entered politics in Tennessee, serving in both the House and Senate. But he did not become widely known until the Battle of New Orleans during the War of 1812. His glorious defense of the city made Old Hickory a national hero. In 1824, the hero of New Orleans ran for president against three other candidates: Henry Clay, William Crawford, and John Quincy Adams. Jackson won the most popular votes and the most electoral votes as well, but he did not have enough electoral votes for a majority. When no candidate had an electoral majority, the House of Representatives chooses a president from the three leading candidates. Clay, who had come in fourth, urged his supporters in the House to back Adams. That support gave Adams enough votes to become president. Adams then chose Clay to be his Secretary of State. It made sense for Adams to bring Clay into his cabinet because the two men shared many of the same goals. Jackson's supporters, however, accused Adams and Clay of making a corrupt bargain to rob their hero of his rightful election, and they promised revenge in 1828. Jackson's supporters used the time between elections to build a new political organization that came to be called the Democratic Party, the name it still wears today. This new party, they promised, would represent ordinary farmers, workers, and the poor, not the rich and well-born who had taken control of the Republican Party. Jackson's supporters worked feverishly to reach the nation's new voters. Besides hurling insults at Adams, they organized huge parades, picnics, and rallies. At these events, supporters sang "The Hunters of Kentucky," the nation's first campaign song, and cheered for Old Hickory. They wore Jackson badges, carried hickory sticks, and chanted catchy campaign slogans like "Adams can write, but Jackson can fight." The result was a great victory for Jackson, but it was also a victory for the idea that the common people should control their government. This idea became known as Jacksonian democracy.